Call to order the Tuesday, March 7, 2023 Town Council regular meeting to order at 6:35. If everyone would please stand for the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, on to receipt of citizens' petitions, comments, and concerns. Receipt of citizens' petitions is the portion of the council meeting where the council welcomes comments from citizens. To address the council, please sign the sheet on the table at the front of the meeting room. When you are recognized by the mayor, please approach the podium, clearly state your name and address, and speak into the microphone. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentations should be related to matters pertinent to Groton. To speak during this portion of the meeting via Zoom, please email council@groton-ct.gov by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. John, do we have anyone online at the moment? We'll take it first.
Olson, let me promote her. She is coming in.
Ms. Polson, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council members. Kelly Olson, 112 Woodland Road. I have been respectfully requesting residential light trespass ordinances for 14 months. Respectfully request residential light trespass ordinances requiring lights to be shielded and lights to be aimed down on the property to prevent light trespass on or through adjacent properties. Other towns in Connecticut currently have residential light trespass ordinance. I have provided examples of some of these. For example, town of Eastwood, Connecticut. All businesses, residential and community roadways, sidewalks, and town property luminaries should be placed and installed with the idea of being a good neighbor. Keeping unnecessary direct light from shining onto abutting properties or roadways, both public and private. Outdoor lighting should be of the minimum necessary in order both number of luminaries and intensity of light to achieve the intended purpose of the lighting, and shall meet the following standards as relevant. Prevent glare, light trespass, or light pollution. Be shielded to the extent possible to confine the light within the target area. In all areas adjacent to residential properties, no externally mounted direct light source directed towards the property line shall be visible at the property line at ground level or above. Over 180 Groton registered voters signed a petition also asking for these residential light trespass ordinances. Another light has been added. The main bully instigator used to have one of his vehicles at his house park on the lawn and sit there with a high beam shining into my house. I changed my fence. He can no longer do this. Instead, he has mounted a light in the backyard on his clubhouse, right at the very left edge of his property, aimed towards the left, 2 properties away. Therefore, it's not lighting anything on his property. It's aimed directly away from his property line. And it goes from light to from extremely bright to excessively bright whenever that flag moves. That trespasses onto my property and completely lights up my garage. It also lights up the garage of my next door neighbor, 3 properties away. Sorry. Showing you that there is indeed an ample amount of light trespass. They are purposely light trespassing across my property into my home every single night, all night long. And I'm sure none of you would want this happening to you, but even if it's not happening to you, this is still a serious problem. Light pollution is disrupting the seasonal rhythms of plants and trees, lengthening pollen seasons in U.S. cities. But as our nights grow increasingly bright, its negative impacts are becoming ever more visible on our health and on nature. Science shows links between artificial light and eye injury, sleeplessness, obesity, and in some cases even depression. U.S. studies on shift workers from 2007 even make a connection with breast cancer. As it turns out, light pollution is hitched to global climate change in important and compelling ways, and protecting the night sky is paramount in avoiding worst-case climate scenarios. Light pollution is also a symptom of another serious problem affecting the entire planet, global warming. With fossil fuels still the main source of global electricity production, the unnecessary use of light at night can contribute to air pollution and climate change. Wildlife is also harmed by light pollution. The decline of lightning bugs or fireflies, the death of birds during migration, and the fatal disorientation of newly hatched sea turtles. I've had light trespassing across my property into my home every single night, all night
minute
long for
remains.
over 5 years. Police will not do anything without an ordinance. Would you want them trespassing into your home every single night? Would you want this happening to your kids, your parents, your friends? Respectfully request residential light trespass ordinance stating light poles need to be shielded to prevent light trespass, stating lights need to be aimed down to prevent light trespass on adjacent properties, stating floodlights are not allowed. My next door neighbor, right in between that light and the other light, my next door neighbor floodlights my entire backyard. This is their light. Floodlights my entire backyard. This is across the street from me all night, every single night. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
I just want the harassment to stop. Please help.
Thank you. First on my list, I have Christine Miene, followed by Travis Paul.
Good evening. My name is Christine Meany. I live at 54 Nicholas Avenue in Groton. And I'm here tonight to talk about the senior cart rate at Shenectah Golf Course. I've been an active member of Shenectah Golf Course and a member of the Women's Golf Association since 1996. I've served on several committees in the ladies group known as SWGA, and now I'm in my second year as the treasurer of the league. Several years ago, the senior cart rate was $13, as long as you played before 9 a.m. Last year, the rate went up to $15 for all seniors. Now the GAB and the Rec Commission have proposed a rate increase of $20 and eliminate the senior cart fee. That's an increase of 33%. The rates that the GAB and the Rec Commission want to reflect is a 5% increase on a daily play of 18 holes. Why are the cart fees going up to 33%? We're talking about a very small group of loyal senior golfers who need to use a cart and maybe on a fixed income. I play with several women who are in their 80s, and it's difficult for them to walk the 5-mile course. Carts are essentials for seniors. Many of Shenny's golf play on the weekend, so if we could just compromise, maybe the price increase could be on the weekends and keep the cost of $15 for the senior players that play before 9 a.m. on weekdays. I truly hope the deciding committees will look at this budget and be considerate of all senior players that just want to go out and have some fun. Please remember, this is a small targeted group that that would be affected. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I am a senior. So someday everybody here is going to be a senior. Do I leave this paper with somebody?
With the town manager. Thank you.
I'll make sure.
Next, we have Travis Paul, followed by Mike Doyle.
Hi, council members. Thank you. My name is Travis Paul, and I am a lifelong resident of Connecticut, and my wife and I own a home in Groton at 77 Oakwood Road. I'm currently pursuing a Master's of Public Health degree, and part of my curriculum is to intern with a local nonprofit. I applied to Community Speaks Out because their mission resonated with me, and there was no other organization in Groton that can replicate what they do for the community. And like many others in this room, my life has been impacted by opioids. For over 20 years, I watched my mother struggle with opiate addiction. Often I felt helpless and had nowhere to turn. And my experience with Community Speaks Out has proven to me that I'm not alone, and many other people struggle with the same feelings. Community Speaks Out offers a lifeline to families and individuals in crisis and provides the resources needed to help raise awareness about the dangers of opioids, reduce the stigmatism associated with addiction, and help those seeking treatment. And during my internship, I quickly discovered that overdose deaths from the misuse of opiates is on the rise in Connecticut, and this issue needs the support of the community to reverse the trend. Furthermore, evidence indicates that this trend has started to accelerate in recent years. One of the major reasons for this increase in overdose deaths is being attributed to an illicitly manufactured synthetic opiate called fentanyl. And based on a recent report from the Connecticut Department of Health, illicitly manufactured fentanyl has been involved in 85% of overdose deaths. And in 2021, New London County had the state highest rates of overdose. And between 20 and 2021, New London County overdose deaths increased by 115%. This is a major public health issue. Whether you are directly or indirectly impacted by the misuse of opiates, every community in the state is affected by this issue, and it will not resolve itself if you chose to ignore it. I firmly believe that Community Speaks Out is the best organization in Groton that will have the greatest impact on this public health issue because they have the expertise and network to combat the misuse of opioids through education and prevention. So on behalf of Community Speaks Out, this is a call to action to please help fund their mission to reduce premature deaths to the misuse of opioids. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Mike Doyle, followed by Madison Howard.
Good evening. My name is Mike Doyle. Address is 956 Long Cove Road in Gales Ferry. I'm a member of the Board of Directors for Community Speaks Out. I'm here to support the allocation of the $112,000 per year for the opioid settlement funds to Community Speaks Out. My short time as a board member for Community Speaks Out, I've been able to see what an impactful and important organization they are for Groton and for Eastern Connecticut. They're a recovery hub in Groton. Okay, they're kind of like a one-stop shop where people can come to get resources, education, awareness, for social events, for groups. It's one of the most important organizations in the area for family support. Not only am I a member of the board, but I also work in the field. I work for Reliance Health, and I run our recovery coach program. And I connected with Community Speaks Out just as a collaboration and realized what an amazing organization and group of people that they are, and what an important part that they role that they play in this area too. Not just that, but there's also the social events that connects the recovery community together. Some of the sober houses in the area, gets them out and gets them back, building their sober networks and their recovery networks. One of the things that I wanted to say too is that as a person in recovery myself, addiction doesn't discriminate. Okay, it doesn't matter how old you are, what your income bracket is, what your ethnicity is, or what your zip code is. Okay, and Travis, who went before me, highlighted some of what's going on in Eastern Connecticut here and in New London County, and I can tell you firsthand, it's not getting any better. It's not. Just when you think you start to get a handle on things, they change it up and they bring in counterfeit pill presses and they start making everything look like the pills that they're supposed to be, even stamped like Oxycontin or Oxycodone or even Adderall or Xanax. So people are buying them, buying them off the streets thinking that it's a prescription that was diverted, and it's 100% fentanyl, and people are overdosing that way. So sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. So one of the things that I've learned about Community Speaks Out since I've been here is that we seem to be right at the front of things. And it's about people. And I can tell you just from the short time that I've been involved with them, we've already been able to connect quite a few people with either housing or recovery support, or get people into treatment, or just basically get that sober network around them, or get that recovery network around them. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say tonight. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Madison Howard, followed by Tammy, Dela, Cruz.
Hi, my name is Madison Howard. I live at 33 Cortland Drive in Groton. And I'm here just to support Community Speaks Out, because without their support, I wouldn't be standing here today. I'm a person in recovery. About 8 years ago, my mom actually heard Community Speaks Out on the radio. She was desperate. She reached out to them. They were able to provide her with guidance, resources to then in turn help me. It was the best thing that could ever have happened to us. It took a little bit, but with their constant support and resources, I finally got treatment. I finally got help. I'm celebrating 6 years today because of them, and I'm actually working in the recovery field myself. So just a little success story to bring to the table. They do great work. I'm example of that. I see it. So yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I have Tammy, Dela, Cruz, followed by Eric Spader.
Hello, Tammy Dela Cruz, 95 Corey Road in Groton. I'm one of the founders and the vice president of Community Speaks Out. Community Speaks Out is located at 214B Thames Street in Groton, and we have been there in this location since 2017. I'm here tonight to speak to you before your vote this evening regarding the allocation of funds from the opioid settlement. I want to remind all of you that this money was awarded because people have died. Let's not forget that. I'm asking for a unanimous vote this evening. Send a message to the next council that you were and are committed to doing your part to help heal our community. You can do that with your vote tonight. I hope that since the last meeting that you have all done your part to research on what role Groton really plays in helping those dealing with addiction. You know, after the last meeting we attended, I was so excited that I immediately looked down on the bus line at space that was located on Route 1. I found a space that was located right next to the Big Y. It used to be the old, I always mess this up, the old gym there that's Planet Fitness. I called the number and played a little phone tag and finally got reached back out, and I said to him, you know, I'm looking to get into your space. And he said to me, can you tell me a little bit about Community Speaks Out? So I gave him the lowdown about how we help people that struggle with addiction and how we help the families and how we create a space that's safe for both families and people in recovery, and we want to give them more of a space of recovery. And the first thing that basically came out of the person's mouth was, I don't think you're a fit. So I was thinking about what's located near there. There's a package store. That's a fit. There's CVS Pharmacy who hands out prescription drugs. That's a fit. But we're not a fit. And I was proceeded to be told that the rent for that space, $200,000 a year. So stigma. Yep, it's a barrier that we face every day. But I am hopeful that Groton will stand strong with us and will make the strides to becoming a recovery-friendly community. See, we must remember that addiction is a chronically relapsing disease. But with an increase in support for recovery will equal long-term recovery for our residents. An increase in recovery equals more supportive services to those who struggle. You see, recovery creates a ripple effect. We have worked hard to support local individuals and their families to connect to treatment. We have played a huge role in lowering homelessness rates by supporting individuals that need to get into supportive, sober homes. Too many people are dying. The time is now to increase recovery support. This will save lives and the lives that those are struggling. So I just really urge you tonight, I want to thank you for listening to us. I want to thank you for moving this out from the committee of the whole. But I encourage you to send a message to the next council next year that you guys are in full support, every single one of you, for the allocation of these funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Spader, followed by Joe Dela Cruz.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and neighbors. My name is Eric Spader. I live at 663 New London Road in Mystic, and I'm here tonight to speak about my support for the allocation of funds to the nonprofit Community Speaks Out. I am in recovery. I am also an active member of the recovery community. My passion lies in helping addicts find the hope and help they deserve. Reducing the stigma around the ideas of what addiction is and what it looks like is something we need to work on as a community and society as a whole. There are people in this room tonight who knew me when I was an active addict that had no idea because of the way I looked, the career I had, and the home I lived in. And I tried very hard to keep it that way, barely surviving a miserable life because of the fear that if I asked for help, I would live with a label that would hurt me and those I loved forever. I didn't know at any point that there was hope and help out there, help I desperately needed. Being an admitted addict, even as a productive member of the community, and even now in recovery, comes with the risk of alienation and isolation to oneself and one's family. Ending that takes time and effort. To start ending the long-term harm addiction creates, both before and after recovery begins, we need to build resources in the community that show the community cares and that life begins with recovery, not that it ends with addiction. The creation and support of these resources proves you are willing to look past the disease of addiction and move forward with people who are changing their lives. Building up recovery and addicts in recovery creates an environment that fosters growth, but more importantly, love and acceptance. Tearing them down with negativity and making them feel isolated from the community perpetuates the narrative that closed-minded people have about the disease, while also damaging the very thing every addict who wants long-term recovery needs: hope for a better life. Community Speaks Out is working to reduce the stigma around the disease by ensuring addicts feel valued and accepted in the community. They do this by providing resources and events for those who suffer from the disease of addiction to feel a part of instead of apart from. Community Speaks Out excels at the very thing needed most, which is to stand up for and with recovering addicts. I stand with all addicts and with Community Speaks Out as a Groton voter and addict in recovery. I fully support and encourage others to support the allocation of funds for the support resources needed and continued growth that will allow Community Speaks Out to save lives and put families back together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Joe Dela Cruz, followed by Jim Markow.
Good evening, Council. Joe Dela Cruz, 95 Corey Road. I want to start out by thanking the Council for inviting us here last month. It was a 2-hour discussion, and really, it's a discussion that should be a lot longer than we had last month. When I walked away from the meeting, the next day it was online, I got to watch it, and I think I was thinking as a politician, as someone that sat in your chair at various different levels, just trying to decide how you could allocate that kind of money. And I kind of forgot that I'm an advocate. And I'm an advocate because I've been involved in this group and I've seen the power of recovery. I've seen what we've been able to do. there's folks that are behind here tonight that won't speak tonight, but just by their presence, they're here representing people that aren't here. You know, we get to see and feel the pain each month when they come to our meetings and talk to us about the ones that they lost, how many funerals they've been to. We've been to all these different outreach programs where we have young people come up to our table when we're at the Groton Fall Festival, and they walk up and they start crying. And they're crying because they've lost 5, 6, 7. Sometimes one young lady we met said she went to 14 funerals. She's a 28-year-old woman, young lady. One woman came up to us at the Fall Festival last month, or not last month, I guess I'm getting my months mixed up, but in the fall, she basically said that there was this picture that she found. And that really didn't have much to do with anything. It was just a group of random students, and they were all kind of friends, but kind of not. And she said, I looked at the picture, and out of 10 people, there were only 2 of us left. 8 young adults lost their life to this disease. You see, this money is blood money. And I know there's budgetary issues, and what scares me, because I was in politics, I understand how this works. These folks were never in politics. They don't understand that this money, if you look at the tobacco settlement that happened in the 80s, some of that money went to tobacco farmers that were harmed. And I'm sure when they were doing those trials and they had people up there, you know, defending that their mom and dad shouldn't have died of this disease of smoking, I'm sure they weren't thinking that the award money would any way go to a farmer in Virginia on a tobacco farm because they were adversely affected. That's why we're here tonight. That's why you're here. We're giving you the information of what our local group does. And we know, you know, even when government, I think, looks to spend money at a problem, we're more powerful because we're the nonprofit and our nose is right there. We talked about Narcan last month and distributing it. And one of the ideas might be, okay, and I've seen it before, where towns will go out and they'll just buy this Narcan and they'll bring it in this big truck and they'll go to a fall festival and they'll hand it out. That's not what Community Speaks Out does. When we get Narcan, we have folks like this in a room who have a son or daughter or a spouse that's coming out of prison or coming out of recovery for the first time, and those people are at risk. And when we teach people how to use Narcan in our situation, they're listening. I remember the first time me and Tammy were taught how to use Narcan. That's the first time it hit me that my son's disease was bad. To sit there and watch someone teach you how to save your loved one, right when they're getting out of recovery, that's when it hits you. So government and the way we work, because it is government, the solve would be to just get this big pile of stuff and start throwing it out. Those things will end up in cars with heat. They'll end up not being used. We know how to use the money. We're going to use the money properly. And we hear a lot of stories about how sad it is. We have our sober softball tournament each year. And I encourage everyone to come down. Many of you have. To me, we think about the 107,000 people we lost in America this last year. 107,000. Well, when I think about the 107,000, I think about the moms and dads that come to our meetings. A grief meeting last night with, I think, 12 moms that lost their children. But more importantly, when we have that softball tournament and we have those little kids running bases and they get to hear their mom and dad's name being cheered for the first time in their life because they'd never met them or they were too young to remember who they were. There was a few of those people that would have come tonight, but it's just too much. It's too much for them. Let's make sure this money goes exactly where it needs to go. I promise you that Community Speaks Out is going to do the proper thing. And I know it's not easy doling out money and being up there and being on the other side, but believe me, we're the community group. We're the ones that can put the money where it needs to be. This is living proof right here. All these people are here with us, not because we are giving you guys shirts, but they did get that. But they are here because they've been to our meetings, they've been to our programs, and they see the impact that we're having. And we thank you guys for your vote. We thank you for last month, and thank you for having us here tonight.
Thank you. Jim Marco, followed by Mark Harrell.
Hi, I'm Jim Marco. I'm representing the Knowing Cooperative, 100 Main Street, Groton, and Knowing. But I feel kind of bad about coming up trying to talk to something that's so insignificant to what's going on with these guys. That sounds pretty tough. But last meeting, you had some people come and talk about our cooperative and some of the difficulties that we've had there. And I'd just like you to know there's two sides to a story, and I'm inviting you all to come down there, have a look, understand what we do, why we do what we do, and kind of get used to us trying to grow, the business in Noank. And what we've done is we started out there with no oysters. Now we have a pretty significant thing going on. So I'm inviting you to all come down there and have, a little time. I don't think our difficulties that we have should be brought up in this forum. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mark Carroll, followed by Chris Simmons.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mark Carroll, and I'm a Noank Aquaculture Cooperative member as well as Jim. And same thing, just want to echo, we'd love to have you guys down at our shop and show you the hatchery and show you all the shellfish that we grow, not only for the Mystic area, but for the Groton Shellfish Commission and all the different commissions in the area. We do a pretty great thing for the environment, and we'd love to have you guys down here. Any of the issues that we have within our co-op membership is truly something that's going to get handled within the membership itself. So just want to echo, thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Simmons.
Yeah, my name's Chris Simons. I'm here tonight as the Vice President of the Noank Aquaculture Co-op, as well as from Stonington Farms. I'm here to just give you a brief background about the current state of the co-op. It obviously sounds great for you to all come down and see firsthand, but there are problems that we've run into that have not been able to be solved within the co-op, and we're reaching out for some assistance. The Noank Aquaculture Co-op consists of 3 farms, Mystic Oysters, Noank Oysters, and Stonington Farms. We also have a 4th member that has started a small farm, basically to obtain membership. This membership gives Mystic Oysters an unfair advantage due to the fact that it's an additional vote for the same farm. It's one of the many things that we face as a small farm down there, being stacked up against us. Mystic Oysters is currently owned by Jim Marco of Niantic and Norm Bloom and Sons of Norwalk. Bloom is a multi-million-dollar oyster farm downstate. Between Bloom and Mystic Oysters, they take up roughly 85% of the footprint of the co-op. Marco has also made it clear that he will be selling his remaining ownership interest to Bloom in the near future. Bloom currently runs the hatchery at the co-op, which takes up almost the entire main building, minus the cooler and an office that the Shellfish Commission has. The oysters that are produced in this hatchery are returned to Bloom's farm downstate and are not even available to anybody at the co-op or in the local area. We bought Stonington Farms from one of the original founding members of the co-op, Kevin Blados. We've witnessed on multiple occasions small local farms looking to become members of the co-op and have been told that there is no room for them. Basically, this is a result of a monopoly taking over the co-op and pushing out all the small farms to take control. There was even a member that was pushed out due to the fact that, while she was fighting cancer, due to the fact that she was inactive at the time. Those are the type of things, again, that we face on a regular basis. Enough about the current situation and past. It makes me a little sick just discussing it. We would like to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So we have some suggestions on how the town council could get involved to turn it around. Obviously, it starts with a visit, becoming familiar with what we do. It should be an avenue for small farms and new farms to grow and thrive. Youth is a key factor. What better place to involve youngsters in this great resource? It could be used to inspire and teach our youth about aquaculture and the environmental impact it has. We did also speak on the state level in support of Bill 6725 this past week. We basically are in support of this bill that aims not only to protect small farms like ours, but to increase diversity within aquaculture. Ultimately, if more space is made available, in addition to existing small farms, this space could be used to encourage students to experience aquaculture. The lease between the town and the Noank Aquaculture, just learned today that it has not been renewed for its second 5-year term in 2021. Basically, this gives us the prime opportunity to rework the terms of this lease and eliminate some of these problems by regulating, some of the particular problems that we have, particularly the forming of monopoly and what percentage is reasonable for a farm, to take over. Multi-million-dollar corporation doesn't need the Noank Aquaculture Co-op. They're taking advantage of the situation, taking advantage of the town of Groton. It should be left available for small farms and new farmers to grow and thrive. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cody Blake, followed by Tom Olson.
Good evening, Cody Blake, 32 Main Street, Mystic, Connecticut. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cody Blake, and my partner Eric Goodman and I, we own K. Blake Company and Construction Management Firm located here in Groton. Together we built the Standard building located in downtown Mystic and just wrapped up the Norton building in downtown Niantic. Eric wanted to be here tonight, but he's currently on a plane right now flying back from a trip that he had scheduled before we knew the meeting was in place. After finishing the Standard project, we met with the town planning development staff to ask about other opportunities of the town. We heard about the Groton Heights School and wanted to know if there was any other things, if things fell through with Thermahan, that we could be a backup. At this time, we were told it was unlikely that things would fall through. A few months later, we heard it was possibly falling through and thought we might be able to get some interest and see if we can get involved. So I'm here tonight to ask the town would allow us to present at another meeting if we could be interested in developing the site and go from there. While we all know the economy is still strong and the demand for housing in Groton is high, I'd urge you not to let this get bogged down, as we could present a plan with mixed income use housing that could be shovel ready in a few months, cleaning up the property and also adding it back to the tax roll in a fast and efficient manner. As some of you already know, I'd like to stress this and remind the town council we use mainly Groton subcontractors. So that brings the project back to local, bringing local construction jobs back here in Groton and keeping business here in town. We'd like you guys to consider it and hopefully hear back from you guys soon for the next meeting. We also do stand with whatever everything is going here in the back. Really happy to be here. I'm sorry that we're here for something else, but we are with you guys 100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Tom Olson, followed by Dana Hines.
Hello, I'm Tom Olson, 188 Crosswinds Drive in Noank. I'm here to address the referral 2019-457 for the 517-529 Gold Star Highway issue. What I've passed out here is a proposed additions to the draft motion for the renewal of the lease. I want to just kind of go over this, is that I'm a little disturbed from a purely contractual perspective. If you take a look at it, that we had, the town of Groton essentially had a contract that was outlined in the option agreement here to sell property and to gain something back from it. And so now And there was a status that, that was outlined in the agreement as it was written originally. And we're looking, the way that this motion is presented initially, it keeps the motion, keeps the terms and conditions identical to what's currently in place that's going to expire next week on the 15th of March. But the seller, this purchaser of the property is not in compliance with the terms. He doesn't have a developer right now. He's asking for more time. So in my viewpoint, we have some leverage over this individual, and we should not just be giving it away. Things have changed on our side also as the town. We've gone off, and in June you approved the Groton Affordable Housing Plan. So it's a new condition that we need to take into consideration, and that was brought up during your last week during your committee of the whole. And so from my perspective, we should have an opportunity here to add a condition here to the renewal of the agreement, keeping everything else identical. He's changing his developer. We're changing our affordable housing ads. It has changed. Life has gone on over these past 2 years. Things have happened. And we need to recognize that on both sides. So that's why I've added some words in here in regard to taking a look that he does his best to meet a 10% of the housing units that he's going to develop. I don't know what that final number is, somewhere between 325 I've heard and 475, excuse me, 275. So somewhere in there, whatever the number is, as part of that proposal that he's giving to the Planning and Development Commission, he should be addressing this issue and this new requirements that we have for the town. I've also, for full disclosure here, I'm a member of the Conservation Commission. The commission met last night. It reviewed this issue because we were concerned that if things fall through, if you don't approve tonight, this is then vacant property, okay? And what's our recommendation from the Conservation Commission? We reviewed it. We saw that this property, even with the changes of the proposals, the valuations and everything, still this is the right thing to be doing from the conservation perspective, is to get something here, and this development is still the right thing to be doing for the town. So we fully support that, and that's what we just added those words in here, that it's in the economical best interest of the community. And so thank you very much for your consideration and providing you the words here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Dana Hines.
Hello, my name is Dana Hines. I live at 561 Noank Road in Mystic. I'm co-owner of Stonington Farm Shellfish, which operates out of the Noank Aquaculture Cooperative. Firstly, I'd just like to state that I agree with Jim and Mark and Chris that a visit by the town council would be a great idea for everybody to check it out and see what it's all about. I just wanted to follow up after the last town council meeting of February 7th, although the situation we discussed at the last meeting remains pretty dysfunctional. I do want to thank the council for providing a platform for us to voice our concerns. And a special thank you to Portia Bordelon and Andre Baumgartner for hearing us, validating our concerns, and pointing us in the right direction as to resources and ideas for collaboration towards making the co-op more inclusive. Speaking from the perspective of not only the owner of a shellfish farm working from the co-op, but as a tax-paying resident of this town, I live 5 minutes from the co-op, and I believe it should be a place where not one single entity can dominate all of the other members. There are obviously size differences between all the members of the farms, but we all have our own niche, our own grounds, our own customers, and the inability to have rational conversations is completely unnecessary. When every member of the co-op works together and not against one another, it benefits all members, all farms, and we can function as a true cooperative, a tool for the advancement of local aquaculture in our community, which is what the town intended upon its inception. Finally, thank you to Town Manager John Burt for approaching us at the end of the last meeting with his contact information. We reached out to him, have yet to hear back for a request for a meeting, but we look forward to that. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I've reached the end of the list. If anyone would like to speak at this time, please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record. Manager Burt, is there anyone online?
There is not.
Okay.
My name is Ian Thomas, 24 Jefferson Drive, RTM District 3, and husband to Councilor Bordelon. Just wanted to, well, first off, I want to commend Community Speaks Out, Joe and Tammy. You guys do great work, and the people in the room tonight and the testimonies we heard tonight are profound, and I sure hope that everything works out as far as the funding goes, and I look forward to seeing what y'all can do with it, expanding the mission. Also, I wanted to express support for Tom Olson's idea as far as like looking at affordable housing and ways we can, if the developer's asking us for, asking the town for a favor, then perhaps we should ask a favor of them. Looking at ways to rework deals as deals evolve over time. It's important that, you know, we look to fill the needs of our community, and affordable housing is a desperate need for this community. Which brings me around to my main point for tonight, Branford Manor. On February 22nd, my wife, Councilor Bordelon, and I had the opportunity to go up to Hartford and testify on a bill, Senate Bill 959. We expressed neither support or opposition to it, as it was a bill that was proposing an advisory council to create mold regulations. And the advisory council would not have formed until 2024, and then, you know, it'd only have the power of making recommendations to the health committee up there in Hartford, which we both felt that was too slow and not addressing the need that's imminent. And as we've heard from Legislate, and we've heard from town officials and city officials, that there's no mold regulations, it's hard to assess, it's you know, all that. We did a bit of research in preparation for going up to Hartford, and we found a number of documents that I think would be well served for Legislate to refer to, as now that we've signed back on with them. I know there's an opportunity to work with them. I know Councilor Bordelon was asking about that, as far as creating regulations and assessment guidelines here and remediation guidelines here on a local level that maybe are a little more aggressive. So what we asked for up in Hartford was a law. We needed the bill to be rewritten into a law, a proposed law that would mandate health districts to investigate any health hazard to the highest degree. And you may wonder what constitutes a health hazard. Well, in the research, we found a number of documents. Most interesting was the Connecticut Department of Health has a document that says guidelines for mold abatement contractors. And inside that document, it refers specifically to visual inspection, yet, you know, which we're familiar with because that's what Legislate referred to a number of times. But the visual inspection as defined here includes Ventilation systems should be visually checked, particularly for damp filters, damp conditions elsewhere. Ceiling tiles, gypsum wallboard, wallpaper, cardboard, and other surfaces should be careful attention. The use of equipment such as a borescope to view spaces inside ductwork or behind walls is recommended in the Connecticut Department of Health guidelines. So I don't know if Ledgelight was aware of this, or if the town is aware of this, or if the city's aware of this, but they should be aware of this. And the Ledgelight has the power to write their own regulations, and they could give themselves the power, using this document as reference, to go inside walls and search for mold aggressively upon any health hazard. Health hazard includes allergens and moisture and mold. And that's defined pretty well in the local law number 55 from New York. I'll send you an email with all these documents attached, and I would suggest that maybe you set up a working group with the city and Ledgelight, and perhaps use these documents as reference to craft better local legislation and inspection guidelines. Thank you.
Do I wait for that to reset?
Yeah, it's.
All right. My name is Beth Gomes, 37 Rosalia Drive in Mystic. I'm one of the partners in Stonington Farms Shellfish. I am the some people that was referred to earlier in the evening about comments made last month. I just wanted to echo everybody in saying that we would love to have you at the co-op to see what we do. I would stress that all farms need to be invited, all farms need to be present, and all farms need to have a voice in that event. I think it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, that if we could have solved this on our own, we would have. We're all busy. Most of us have young kids at home. Some of us have older parents that we tend to in the evenings. We all work at least one full-time job, and this isn't our first choice of an activity on a Tuesday evening, and clearly there are more important issues that need your attention, and we should have been able to handle this on our own. I've tried, the last time I tried to start a conversation, I was told to stop talking. There's not a whole lot I can do other than that. So I look forward to your help and your support, and ideally getting in a outside party, a mediator, somebody who's not connected to any of us and has no stake in any of our farms, to help us all work through this situation so it can get better, and you guys can go back to focusing on more important things. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this time?
My name is Casey Johnson. I live on 14 Mercer Street. 25 years ago, this company named Purdue decided to rebrand heroin. They slapped a fancy logo on it, and here we are. When I was a 16-year-old boy in high school, it was 10 times easier for me to walk into school and buy synthetic heroin than it was to buy beer. There's a statistic we reached, I think back in 2019. More millennials have died in the opioid crisis than the number of American casualties in the Vietnam War and the AIDS epidemic in the 80s combined. But not all of us are dead. Some of us are still fighting. 80 years ago, these two guys named Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob created these 12 steps to help fight addiction. And the biggest thing about those 12 steps is fellowship. And Community Speaks Out brings fellowship. It brings us together because we need to learn how to be normal members of society. After incarceration, you learn to be more antisocial and resentful towards society, And I think Community Speaks Out has done great work so far in bringing us together. And that's how we fight this disease. And that's how we go on another day. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
My name is Inez Richards. I'm a part of Recovery 12 Solutions. And I want to talk about Community Speaks Out. I want to talk about when women like me come out of prison with nowhere to go and no money and nowhere to live. And we call Community Speaks Out and they help us get into the sober house by helping pay the rent to get us in the sober house. The men and women who have came home from incarceration or who have gotten out of treatment or who have gotten out of detox with absolutely nowhere to go and call Community Speaks Out, and they pay a couple of weeks to allow them to have a warm, safe place to go and help them to start their life. People like myself, help them to start their life and help them to have a couple of weeks rent paid so that they can go find a job and continue on. And I can't tell you, like in the last 9 years that I've been clean, I can't tell you the success stories. I also can't tell you the deaths, but I can't tell you the success stories. I can't tell you how many times Community Speaks Out have sponsored events for us, and the first time we bowled, or the first time we did karaoke. I know for me, I didn't know nothing about having fun in recovery. I thought recovery was real serious. And it is real serious. But Community Speaks Out put on events for people like myself. And we go and have fun and we have dances. We had karaoke a couple of weeks ago. I've never been to karaoke in my entire life. And it was so much fun. And they're always there for us. When we call and ask for clothing for women and men who don't have clothing, who don't have cosmetics, who don't have food, they're always there for us. And I think it's very important that I say that in the 9 years that I've been with Recovery 12 Solution, that Community Speaks Out is one of the only agencies that helps us. Them and one other person, but they're always there for us, they're always putting on events for us, and they're always helping people come out of the cold and give someone a place to live. And I just think that's wonderful, because in my addiction, I've been an addict for over 40 years. I remember when no one would help me. No one would help somebody like me. They just wouldn't. And I appreciate Community Speaks Out, and I appreciate what they do for the community. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up here and share that.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close receipt of citizens' petitions. Just like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. So we will move on to the consent calendar. Move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar on the agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion of these items will take place unless cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to adopt. I make a motion to move the special trust fund contributions of February and the February 7th, 2023 meeting minutes. So moved.
Second, Jones.
Moved by Melendez, seconded by Jones. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 8 in favor. On to communication and reports, starting with the town councilors. Councilor Parker.
Yes. So last week I attended, well, it's several things actually. I attended the TVCCA Executive Board meeting, the regular TVCCA Board meeting. I have some information. If anyone needs energy assistance, applications are still open with TVCCA, just not open with the state if you need it. I will get the information over to the town manager so he can post it online for everyone. Volunteered at the Gong Show, and I believe that's all I have, and several other things, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Franco.
Thank you. I had numerous communications, but I'm not going to go into other events, so thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also received communications, and one of the more memorable events or groups that came in front of us about maybe a year ago were the skateboard community, members of the skateboard community, to support improvements to Sutton Park. And they basically moved all of us with their honesty and the way they spoke, and just how they came out and gave us things that they would like to see improved in their community and to their park. This afternoon, we had the follow-up meeting for that at Sutton Park with the skateboard community, and the landscape architect is going to do the work, and Parks and Rec, and it was equally as moving a experience, because these guys were so, and women, men and women, were so involved in their community, what they're trying to do, and it was just a joy to kind of stand back. There was, Representative Jacome and I were there. We didn't really do anything, we just stood there and watched them. But as they engaged and expressed the things they needed, the ideas they had, the improvements they wanted, it was just great to see the communities like this community that we have here in front of us today, just to see this all happen. So I just commend to watch the process, that it can work, and it does work as people work through it. And I think we were all moved when we saw them and found out a way to get money to them. And tonight was a nice follow-up, and it will follow up more, and they'll do more, and we'll have a huge improvement to the community. But it was really an honor to just stand back and watch them today. So.
Thank you. Councilor McBride?
Thank you. Had numerous correspondence with and emails, as the council always does. Also spoke to the three candidates for the council, or spoke to them or emailed the three candidates for council to discuss their interest and involvement on becoming councilors, to get some feedback from them. Also had some discussions with two individuals regarding River Road and the concerns of the flooding there, and spoke with John Bird about some of the things we could look into using some of the EPA funding that's coming out to help potentially alleviate some of those issues. Also had conversations regarding the special revenue fund with numerous people, and the purpose for that is to place the opioid funds from these settlements, to ensure all of those funds that are received go into the special revenue fund, to place into a special fund, to ensure those funds are never used for any other purpose other than the opioid fund. So had numerous conversations with the people about the importance of this council designating those funds for the special purpose. So hopefully at some point this council will consider doing so. Also did have two phone calls regarding the Gulf rates and how it's important to make sure we review the changes that are being recommended. And one last note, we have a meeting tomorrow. The Property Reuse Committee meets tomorrow at 5:30 for anyone that's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bordelon?
Thank you. I had numerous correspondence regarding the rates at the Shinnecock Golf Course for seniors, as well as River Road flooding, as well as Eastern Point's flooding and conditions. I also did receive communications about the co-op concerns. For full disclosure, I had stated at a previous meeting that I walk in Knowing often, so I did get a chance to pop through. And again, staying a neutral person, but just kind of seeing the program there that was established after UConn and the state made an agreement with the town, so that was interesting. I also did receive communications. I did speak with two counselors of interest that were interested in the council that did reach out. What other communications did I have? I think those are good. I also attended, I read for Read Across America at Catherine Kolnowski last week. Also last week on Thursday, I was asked to sit on a board at Mitchell College to speak for Women's History Month. It was an honor to speak with three other women throughout the district and around the Connecticut, speaking to the college students about the importance of women's history. So that was a great honor at Mitchell College. I also did attend on Saturday. The Mystic Parade Foundation had a fundraiser event before the Mystic Irish Parade, which will happen on the 19th, which is coming up on a Sunday of this month. And they had raffles and fundraisers and bands, and it was a heavily attended event and a great opportunity to help donate to keep the Parade Foundation going. I did get the emails I forgot from Mr. Olson as well. Did email Mr. Burt regarding asking about the co-op, if there had been a joint meeting yet with both representatives from the co-op that are, and
I have not heard exactly, I know there was something in the manager's report about it. And I did receive an email back from John Burt about my referral for Branford Manor, asking it needs 2 counselor support to bring Branford Manor's mold concerns back to the council and have us discuss it in a more in-depth way to cause action. So I guess it didn't get I have to get 2 counselors to support it. So I guess Town Manager Burt said no one supported it, so my referral did not move. Also, I made a referral to the Rules Committee, which I also did not get any support from counselors up here. My rule was that some folks online and here sometimes get nervous with speaking, and at the state level, when I go up and speak, they'll say, you have 30 seconds, please wrap up your comments. And I just made a referral asking that we maybe give the courtesy of that, so that did not move either. And that's all I have to say. And I just thank everybody for coming out and speaking and having the courage to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Westervelt.
Thank you very much. I also received numerous emails on lots of different topics that face us every day or every week. I also spoke with a couple of the candidates, or the candidates who are seeking the vacant seat on the town council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kasiri.
Thank you. Good evening. I received various communications regarding Branford Manor updates, Air Mahan, the Gold Star Highway property, the opioid settlement agenda item for tonight, and the co-op issue. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a couple things. CCM invited me to speak on a panel titled Representation Matters. I did that last week. I was honored to participate. It was a very accomplished panel, and I was excited just to be involved with it. Also, the Coast Guard Academy invited me to their billet night. It was a very fun event. Basically, the graduating class gets their first job in the Coast Guard, and they're all very excited. It was a very fun night. I was fortunate to be able to attend. Tomorrow, the Mystic Noack Library is hosting an event called Reading on Tap. It's a fundraiser for the library. I believe Councilor Parker, Councilor Jones, and myself will be reading there. So look out for that. Also, with the vacancy, I just ask that councilors, when you're ready to vote, let me know so that I know when to put it on the agenda. It can happen any week because we could just call a special council meeting. And finally, this is probably relevant to a lot of people here tonight. There is a group at Grasso Tech, a student group called Students for Recovery, and they're hosting a Recovery Fest. This is going to be the second annual one. It's going to be on April 28th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Pequannock Plains Park. I know I'll be there. I was there last year. It was a great event, and I know it'll be another great event. But with that, the council will stand in recess for 10 minutes. Council is back from recess at 7:57. On to the town manager's report.
Good evening. Excuse my voice, if it goes out, I have a cold, so that's why I've been trying to wear a mask around people. One, just want to say I wholeheartedly support Community Speaks Out, obtaining the 2-year funds. I think it's well deserved. Let's see. American Rescue Plan Act funds, I did pass through our town council's action for awarding those funds, did go through the RTM Finance Committee, and it will go to full RTM tomorrow night. So that would be the last step of it, as long as it goes through. Let's see. Just as a reminder, March 29th at 6:30 p.m. will be the budget presentation. That is at Thrive 55, not here. So to keep that in mind. Let's see. I had said something to the council. The Parks and Rec department had been offered they had applied for transportation alternative plan grants. They were offered $1.17 million to do a trail, basically connects pathways from Depot Road with Thomas Road all the way through there. There is a 20% match requirement. However, some of the work we do for the challenge grant may count towards some of that match. So we'll see how that shakes out and take the pulse of the council, see what you want to do. You remember it was mentioned that we had some broken out windows, et cetera, at the Groton Heights building. Everything's been fixed. We put plexiglass instead of glass, except for we have one window left just because we have to get on state property to reach it, and we're trying to get a hold of someone to get that permission. Let's see. We should, at the end of this week, get the preliminary conceptual plan from the architect for the community center. So it's been a while, so it'll be good to have that, and there will be some cost estimates with that. TVCCA, their new facility, we just got the title work back, and there's no restrictions on the property. Public Works has been helping them. They're going to be digging some test pits. They've done other things for them. And we have to get a phase 1 and an environmental assessment done, but I've got a quote on that, but that's actually going to be TVCCA is going to cover that cost. It's about $7,800. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Council Bordelon?
Thank you for your report. Ed, could you speak to any communications you've had for the manager's report regarding the co-op? Have you had an actual meeting with both entities yet, or?
Well, I've had a phone conversation with Mr. Oh, geez, I just blinked on it. I've talked to each side. I haven't been in person with one side. I've talked to one Shellfish Commission member, reached out to me, and then someone from the state called me also. Excuse me. My intent is to get a meeting together, to bring parties together, though it's not for sure yet that lease has lapsed. Our attorney's reviewing it because there was another re-up on it, so that has to be confirmed one way or another. And I do plan it. I was already planning. I think I already told the council I'd like to get everybody down there to see the facility.
Yeah, I did tour it, but I'd like to go again so I can see the other parts. Is there a write-up? I try to look back in like records and stuff where when this became turned over from UConn back in I think '99. It was meant, from the research I did, I actually remember the meeting in '99 down there, because there was condos possibly going to go in, and they said it has to, as long as it stays as a in some realm of that kind of water research kind of support, it was fine. So we run the building, but the state owns it if they take it back if we don't.
Reverter clause.
Right. So I guess what I'm not finding, though, have you been able to find any language as to, obviously the council doesn't oversee, that would be something in our town. Is there a town staff where they report once a month, or who kind of, like, where's the town's oversight on the facility? If you have any report, if you could get that to us, that would be helpful.
I don't think I don't know of any reports. I haven't come across any in the town manager files anyways. I don't think in the lease there's any requirement. The purchasing agent works with the leases, and when they're up, Carl Klein, our current one, will be looking at the existing one. But I don't think there's any regular going to any kind of report that comes from them.
All right, because I just wanted to check, because I just wanted to be clear on the language to make sure I understand. Because one thing, after seeing the building, it was, but it does, without knowing the language, Is one more dominant than the other? Should everyone have equal platform and usage? Like that type of stuff, like who manages all of that? So that's, you know.
Yeah, typically that wouldn't be through a lease,
Yeah.
but.
And then the other thing I asked, Branford Manor, I know originally when Branford Manor came before us, we had stated that we would be putting them on the agenda once a month. Where are we at with that? Because they haven't been on since, what, November or October?
As mentioned previous, the mayor had indicated that was before going into default. So at this point, there is no regular meeting with them.
So we're not putting them on because we went into default, okay. And then my last, you stated about the AED machines were almost fully up and running with all of those.
Correct.
Okay, and then
I'm
you
just
said,
waiting to hear on the last outside too, because they have to be connected to the police department. So I was waiting for a verification whether those are, we have them, I just don't know for sure if they're installed yet. They're a little more to it. And we are gonna have, I need to confirm, but 5:30 on the 28th, we'll do a training in here for AED for the town council. And they're gonna be doing, Groton Ambulance is gonna do them in different facilities.
all right. And then as far as Groton Heights goes and the fall through with Thayer Mahan, the gentleman that spoke tonight, are you guys in contact with him? I mean, I don't need to know all the detail, but is that something that you guys, I didn't catch what company he was part of, I just got the name, but is that something you guys are working with, or have you reached back out?
Well, Eric Goodman had reached out a few days ago. He's partners with Eric Goodman. But no, I mean, nothing yet.
Okay.
We've had actually a few people reach out to us with interest.
All right, so will there be some form of a meeting coming up for that or executive session to discuss that property at some point? Or?
Yeah, it'll definitely be on the town council agenda.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Council Franco?
Thank you. Manager Burr, would you, you had mentioned the co-op, as in previous meetings, you've done the hard work of setting up meetings for us with all parties involved. Would you be able to take care of that, please?
Yes, that's my plan.
Okay, and then when it comes to the Branford Manor meetings that they're having, are they still conducting meetings with the residents? Is the owner still having meetings with the residents?
I don't think there's regular meetings. They put out the report that I send to the council to the residents.
But they're not having meetings with the residents?
Not since they laid out the process, I don't think. And they give them an update through the newsletter.
All right. And then also, can you put on your list to please give us an update on William Seeley? Because it's been quite a while since we've really heard anything that's going on with that property. And I'd just like to know where they are in the process.
Yeah, probably
Great.
what we could do is maybe a group excess property agenda topic.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Don't have anything from committee of the whole. I don't believe any of our subgroups have met this month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So with that, we'll move on to new business. National opioid and settlement acceptance and allocation years 2 and 3.
Would you like me to read?
Sure.
A resolution to authorize the year 2 and 3, in year 3, opioid settlement payments. Whereas the proliferation of improper use of opioids has created a nationwide epidemic, and whereas the town council has joined into settlement agreement with the manufacturers and distributors of opioids, and whereas the national opioid settlement funds are intended to be used in the fight against opioid and other addictions, and whereas the Community Speaks Out is a volunteer nonprofit organization focusing on improving the community by providing education, prevention, and resources to individuals and their families to access treatment and recovery, and whereas the town of Groton previously awarded their settlement funds received in year 1 to Community Speaks Out, and whereas the town council desires to award opioid settlement funds for the 2nd and 3rd year to Community Speaks Out, now therefore be resolved that the town council authorizes the 2023 and 2024 settlement funds to be awarded to Community Speaks Out, and be it further resolved that the request be forwarded to the representative town meeting, RTM, for consideration. I so move.
Second.
Bordelon?
Second.
Moved by Franco, seconded by Parker. Any discussion? Council Franco?
I would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. There was powerful testimony on this, and powerful testimony on what Community Speaks Out does for our community. And this is an epidemic that's nationwide, but it hits home right here in our town. And I am in full and absolute support of this. And as our last meeting, I had made the motion to try and give the money to Community Speaks Out for the full 18 years that we're supposed to be getting this money. And with a compromise, I guess it was, we went down to 2, and it, but in my heart, I believe that Community Speaks Out does the best for our community, and I think the award money should go to them for the next 18 years, and I full and wholeheartedly support this and hope it helps people and future generations and future people within our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Bordelon?
Thank you. Just want to thank everyone for coming out. It's definitely tough to be a person who's in recovery or a person who's speaking on behalf of somebody in recovery. As a person who has worked, serves on a board that deals with adolescent girls that are committed to the state and overwhelmingly not being rehomed because of addiction, we're not seeing the rates that we used to returning back home because recovery is a long process. And so, I'm very familiar with the process. For full disclosure, I've had family members that have suffered from addiction. And so I know firsthand what it's like, especially in the Black and Latino community, as well as all cross sectors. Addiction has been a problem way before fentanyl and opioids. It is, it was crack, it was heroin, it was other things, and it now has broken into more elite, like as people have spoken, people that you would never think or that society puts an image on, which is unfortunate. From the incarceration side, I constantly have conversations with my husband, who's a teacher in the prison, and the need, helping people incarcerated get education. And people look at them and say, oh, our taxpayers are paying for folks to get their degree and they're incarcerated, they shouldn't get that. I support, well, as most of you know, when we get to the outside resource line coming up for budget season, this is where the money should be going, is helping overwhelmingly feed our homeless and our hungry. We had a budget, an item on the agenda one night talking about homelessness in Groton and why people were, not
Point of
taking
order.
housing.
Point of order.
What's your point of order?
Stick to the topic at hand, please.
Thank you. Council Bordelon, please stick to the
Yes, it is.
opioid settlement. Thank
It
you.
is opioids, and it's about homelessness and addiction.
You're talking about a budget line item.
Council Bordelon, you have the floor.
Thank you. And one of the reasons in Groton we've had camps are people do not want to go into shelters because they can't use there. So it's better to be out homeless. So this stretches, addiction creates, there's hunger, homelessness, child abandonment, many issues, cost of living, trying to find affordable housing, helping people find jobs in our community. So if Community Speaks Out is doing all those things, which they do, that is what a true, outreach program should be. And I'm a big, big supporter of outreach and community support to our outside services and in-town services. So I know that there was a talk about it being for 18 years. It's nothing stating that after the 3 years that you can't come back, and it wouldn't be. It's just important to make sure that we allocate it for the 2 years, get it going, and make sure, the success continues on. As Joe stated, as an elected official, that's a safe road to be on, to make sure that, we can have you come back again in 3 years and talk and see all the great, things that are done. So I'm really excited, and I thank you guys for having the courage and the strength and, the ability, even if you're not speaking, that you came here tonight to sit here. It's very powerful, and I look forward to seeing what happens, and wishing everyone all the best of success with this. Thank you.
Council Kasiri.
I'm sorry, did you call on me, Mr. Mayor?
I just
Yes.
asked for decorum, Mayor,
Council
eye
Bordelon,
rolling when I spoke.
Council
Thank you.
Bordelon.
Thank you.
Council Kasiri, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm so sorry that I can't be there in person tonight to see the turnout to support the fight against opioid addiction. I have COVID, otherwise I would be there with you tonight. I think Mr. Paul gave us the most alarming statistics on the new London County rates that should be sending us as the decision makers for the town the warning signs we need and how urgently we need to help our community right now. I want to thank you all, to all of the individuals who came out to speak for Community Speaks Out tonight, and for those of you who bravely shared your stories. I stand with all of you, support you, and the least that I can do in the position I hold is to vote yes to get this the settlement money to Community Speaks Out to fight this epidemic. And I too strive for Groton to be a recovery-friendly community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Westervelt?
Thank you. I want to thank you guys for everything that you do. My kids have gone through the Groton school system. They're ranging in ages from 34 down to 20, and they've seen a lot of what's gone on. Their friends are there. They're all a part of this. And through them, I know they've talked to me about it, and we appreciate everything that you do for the community. Thank you.
Councilor McBride?
Thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone that's coming out. I appreciate hearing stories and the things that have happened, and I commend you for coming out and supporting this initiative. And I can't say enough how great I feel that community, CSO has done the job that they've done and what they've done in the community. So I really mean that truthfully. I do have a difficult time, and as some of you know, I made some questions and comments in the last meeting. It has nothing at all to do with Community Speaks Out. My concern is, as a counselor, I believe that oftentimes we do need to make difficult decisions. And my concern is that we have something in front of us that, if approved, and it probably will be approved, but I just want to state my concern. I have concerns over allocating year 3 funds for even an agency as an A+ agency as you are. When the money hasn't come in the door yet, I think it could set a potential precedent to other agencies coming before us, requesting funds that are either grants or even pilot money or state or federal funds, and A+ agencies like yourself requesting we designate money for future years and money that we haven't received. So although I support everything you do, I support the year 2 money, absolutely. I have concerns over supporting year 3 money that we don't even know how much it is. And I would support the year 3 money once it comes in, supporting everything you're doing, moving forward and voting that year 3. But I, as a, somewhat involved in the financial field, I just have concerns over, in essence, appropriating money that we haven't received yet. So please don't take my, my vote as not supporting of your efforts, but just understand that I'm purely looking at setting a precedent of allocating funds that is really tying the hands of, or could potentially tie the hands of future counselors. With that being said, I would like to make a motion, an amended motion on the floor, because I fully support what you do, and that motion would be for $89,508, which is the amount of year 2 funding that this council knows that we can appropriate and move forward with, and when and if that year 3 money comes forward, we can move forward with that. So that's my motion.
I'll second it for discussion.
I got a motion on the floor for $89,508, made by Councilor McBride and seconded by Councilor Bordelon.
Mr.
Yep.
Question, was this discussion brought up on February 14th? Was this voted upon at that time? Because if it is, you can't bring the same motion back up.
I don't believe this number was on the floor, no.
Okay, just to confirm, thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a point of information.
Sure.
Yes.
Is Counselor McBride only making a motion for 89,000? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the full amount. Or is that for the 3rd year?
I proposed a motion for the $89,508, which would be for the year 2 that we know the funds are coming. It makes up the amount that's previously allocated, the $23,398, plus the $89,508 brings us to the $112, which we know we're receiving. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so only that amount from year 2?
Yes, in effect, not appropriating any money beyond that we're not aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Councilor Bordelon?
So I guess my question then to the town manager, I guess in reference, and once again, it doesn't mean I'm supporting 89. I'm just like asking the question because that's what we're supposed to do up here is ask the question. So in reference to what Councilor McBride states, you know, and I do respect him as he sits on a financial board, is it considered improper, even if, like right now, I want to give it to him every year, right? Like to be allocating funds, what if the number comes in substantial that it's double this, but like another up and coming agency, you know, because what I'm trying to say is sometimes one agency can't facilitate recovery for everybody. There's a bunch of collaborations with a lot of different things. SCAD might be doing detox and other things. So if we put all of the money into one pot, then do we hamstring others? So my thing is, let's say next year it comes in double this, and we say we're going to give Community Speaks Out the same that we gave you this year, you know, or the year allocation for the next 18 years. I don't know. But it comes in more, and it's like we can give another agency $50,000 just to kind of feed their pot. I guess, is it proper? Are we acting in proper governance to be allocating funds that we don't even know? It's like telling someone, "Yep, I'll give you my pay next year," but I don't even know what it is.
I had actually, as you may recall, the former finance director still does some contractual work for us. I was consulting with her on some other things, and I asked her to look into this. She didn't see a governmental issue with it.
Did we talk to our attorney?
What's that?
Did we talk to our attorney at all, too?
There's not a legal aspect to this. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm asking.
No,
I'm not an
because
attorney.
I don't see a point to it. But we likely, though, will put it in a special fund the way it's handled. It doesn't mean anything. It's actually quicker to get the money out in a special fund. So that's however finance wants to do. That's how we do that. So if it's in general fund, you have to transfer it to differently, like a two-step process. So there's no effect on how quickly it gets out. Actually quicker.
So is there any way that it could be stated in the motion that basically in year 3 we allocate, because what I heard clearly from Tammy and Joe and others that spoke is they need the assurance that they can get the next round, you know, the move underway to, you know, it's a risk, right, to take on a new building without having the funds that are going to be there. So 2 years was enough to make sure. So is there a way that we can make the motion state that in year 3 the funds would be guaranteed equal to this year, and any funds exceeding that, we just come back around the table and discuss? Unfortunately, they're not allowed to talk tonight, so I don't know if that would do anything or not. I don't know if that's something Councilor McBride would be even interested in, but it would be a way of saying it would be like a middle road in my mind where you would be allocating double that amount for the 2 years. Anything that exceeds that doesn't mean they're not going to get it, but then we would come back around the table for those remaining funds. So that way, as a counselor, I'm not sitting up here voting on, what if we get enough that we could start a whole nother program to support Community Speaks Out, you know, or maybe someone wants to start a treatment facility with beds that's going to support Community Speaks Out. You know, I don't know, and they're saying, all I need is another $50,000 because I can get this grant to match it if the town gives me it. You know, I see both sides of that, so that's my question.
Councilor Jones?
Can I have my question answered?
Who?
To the town manager, is that something that can be done in the language?
The council can
You
do
can
whatever
make
they
whatever
wish.
motion you want.
Okay, that's what I was just asking.
Councilor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to give my support to Community Speaks Out. Thank you to everybody who came tonight. It takes a lot to come out and speak in public and to sort of bare your soul about the experiences that you've been through. I'd also like to thank Tammy and Joe, who have built an amazing organization from personal experience that brought them to this point and have taken those experiences far beyond anything that they, I think, could have imagined that they have done in the benefit to the community. So I want to commend both of them for, out of pain came a tremendous organization and a tremendous service to the town of Groton, to the citizens, and to all of the people that are sitting here in front of us. It's quite moving. So my intent here is just to support the original motion on the floor. I just confused by what this second thing is, and I don't understand where that's going. So I would just be voting for the first motion that's on the floor. Thank you.
Counselor Bordelon?
Oh,
Did you want to go? You want to go?
go right ahead.
Yeah, no, she, no.
No, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Go ahead. I already spoke. Go ahead, she, no.
Counselor Franco?
Thank you. After just hearing the case that's laid before us regarding the amended motion, my first question is said for amended motion for year 2. So that's the current year? Is that what the amendment is for right now? Because this is the second year of funding.
Yeah.
So it's right now for this year.
No. Yeah, the 89, so, sorry. I don't want to speak for you, but he meant year 2 as in year 3 in this packet. Year 1, so the
Year
89,000.
year 1 was last year.
Right. 89,000 is for this year, year 2.
It's actually, the 112 is for year 2. It's year 2 of the manufacturer, year 1 of the distributor. We already allocated the first year of the manufacturing, so it's
Right.
112 total for this year.
Okay, so your motion is for, what's the 89,000?
My motion is for the national opioid settlement amount that we have received for $89,508.
Okay, but we also received another smaller one.
That's already been,
No, that's separate. We've received a second allocation
get
for
that
the
every year.
manufacturer, or for the
okay,
distributors.
then I stand corrected. I'm in favor of giving all the money that we received to Community Speaks Out, so that would total the one. So can I amend my motion to the
And I'll
one?
Sure.
take my second back.
I am in favor of the total funds that we received going to Community Speaks Out of $112,907. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Can I continue?
Yes, 112,907.
What's that? Thank you. So to clarify, this year, we're getting $112,907. And so you're just trying to make it so that they have 1 year of funding and not 2. There is potentially us getting additional opioid funding, is that correct, from pharmacies, Mr. Burt?
There's been we just filed paperwork to be part of some recent settlements, Walmart, CVS, Walgreens. And each one's structured differently. So, there's no way of knowing until it comes in what exactly it'll be.
Right.
Probably same kind of time frame, probably late summer, early fall.
So we'll
somewhere
have
around
more
there.
money potentially coming in later in the year on top of the 112, potentially this year and
Could be,
in the future.
depending. I'm not sure if those will come that quickly. It might just be for year 2, though.
Okay. So the resolution is
Or 3,
written.
sorry.
I'm sorry. The resolution is written, and it doesn't have a dollar amount, because it's basically saying whatever we receive this year is going to Community Speaks Out. So if it's 110,000, whether it's 300,000, the money this year would go to Community Speaks Out, and what we decided in the last council meeting basically was to give them 2 years' worth of funding. And what it also is, it's a symbolic vote for the next year. There is nothing, if we gave it to Community Speaks Out for 18 years, it's symbolic, because a future council can change anything. It's not set in stone. This is a statement to our community that we stand by people in our community who need help. And I also am, I have to say, this is not taxpayer dollars. This is a lawsuit money because of, basically on the backs of a lot of dead people who died from opioids, and a lot of people who got addicted because of the poor behavior of pharmaceuticals and doctor prescriptions and pharmacies who just doled it out. I mean, this is not taxpayer dollars. This needs to go right back out into our community. And to give it to you for 2 years so Community Speaks Out can grow and know that they have the funds coming potentially for the next year, regardless of what the amount is. That they know they have funding for 2 years of this so that they can grow, they can sign maybe a lease to get it into a bigger place. This is to say, we support our community. And if you need this money to grow and to reach more people, it's all symbolic. That's why there is no dollar amount listed in our resolution. It is symbolic. I don't know how else it can be explained. It is, you are not tying anybody's future hands, because next year they could say, you know what, something else has happened, and maybe we're going to give something to somebody else as well. But right now, this is the organization in our community that is helping people. I do not want this money to ever go and sit in a special trust fund and just sit there as like a savings account. because this should go right back out into our community. And that's why Mr. Burt said that to me, because he knows how passionate I am that this does not sit in any of our town government funds.
Counselor McBride?
Just for clarification purpose, the reason you set up the special revenue fund, as Town Manager Burt said, is to get the money out there faster. It doesn't have to come from the general fund. So it's actually a way to speed up the process to get the funding out to community service and other organizations. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, so I'll speak briefly just before we vote. I'm obviously very supportive of the main motion, which is the 2 years. I think that the more years we're able to give them of funding, the more security they'll have, the bigger plans that they can have, instead of having to plan from year to year. Yes, the next council can change whatever we pass tonight, but if we allocate 2 years tonight, they will have to vote to take the money away rather than vote to allocate it to whoever they please. This is essentially us recommending to them that this is the best organization in our community to spend these funds. If we tasked the town with reaching the community and spending these dollars as efficiently and as best we can, the town would definitely contact Community Speaks Out, because Community Speaks Out has that infrastructure there. They know the best way to get the money into the hands of the people who need it. As they said many times before, they're all volunteers. We're not paying anyone's salary. This is 100% going into the hands of the people who need it. This is the most efficient and effective way you could spend the money. And for that reason, I'll support giving every cent of this settlement to this organization. If there's any other discussion, and if not, Council Bordelon?
To the town manager, when will this come back before us next year? How are you, I guess, so I can just understand from my tracking in my email and stuff, when are we calling, like, when I think of budgets, I think of like the fiscal years and stuff. So when are we calling this year one? When does year 2 end? And when does year 3 start?
It depends on which way you want to look at it. I'm looking at this calendar year really, but it's,
Is it, because I did some research in some places, it's like from the point of allocation. So I just want to be, because that's also very important for them as well. You know, it's when you're getting a fund, where are we doing calendar year, January to December?
And I was just looking to see when we received notice of the amounts. It was, we received emails saying what the amounts would be on October 13th of '22, so we'll know within your term likely what the amounts will be for the following year.
So this year 2 runs from October to October, is what you're saying?
Well,
I think we need to be.
I look at it as a calendar year. I'm looking at it as a calendar year.
Right, because if it was rolling funds coming in, we just need to be very clear as to where the
And then we
start and the end
received those
is.
funds, I think it was November, we actually received the funds about a month later.
So what is our calendar year? We're going to do calendar year, January through December?
Right.
Okay.
And I only expect funds to come in one time a year, and it'll be around that time, so.
January to December calendar.
'Cause
And
they,
you,
they had sent out notices both for the Jansen settlement as well as the other one.
but I guess maybe I misunderstood in my notes here. I know it was stated that there might be some other funds that may come in that we don't know about.
There's just
announced.
more settlements.
Right, more settlements. So when those come in, those fall under, like, how do we, that's what I'm asking.
That's why I left it open, not knowing with every contingency, I left it open. So basically anything that comes in by the end of the next calendar year would go. Unless you say otherwise and say you want it all the way to the budget year, but nothing should likely come in through them then anyways.
I just think we should be very clear in our ask or our want here. It's not just allocating it. It's like, you know, I want to know.
Because what I don't know is they just put out the notice about 4 or 5 weeks ago for us to sign up for those other allocations. I don't know if they'll wait all the way or if they'll quickly try to get it in. It's impossible to know. I think they'd then be on a schedule after that, but I just can't tell yet.
So I guess then, if the year 3, we're considering that what month, December of what month, year, would that be ending?
As of now, I would count it as the end of the calendar year
What year would that be?
of 24.
So 2024 December would
Well,
end.
Actually, we're giving away.
That's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah,
I
let me
need
think it
clear
through.
guidelines,
Yeah.
so I could, and I think we're not sure who's coming back and who's not, and it just needs to be clear as to when the next council came up as a new person to understand when this ends, and so when they're voting on it again to allocate more funds, when that
Well,
starts.
since we received the year 1 manufacturer payment, year 2 distributor, then you're probably talking to the end of 23. So whatever unless you guys want to extend it in case there's lag time to the end of the budget year. But as of now, I would count it, it's likely to be by the end of December of 23.
That would end,
We'll get another payment at the end of this year. Payments.
and that would end year 2 or year 3?
Well, you're getting into more years now too, because you already have 2 years of distributors. You have 1 year of manufacturer, but now there's more distributors coming. They may be classified individually. I can see too, they're not all on the same time frame. Some are front loading. Each one's being paid out differently. My guess is we'll have a different payment for each and every entity.
Right, so I guess what I'm voting on tonight ends on what date?
As of now, I would count at the end of 23 unless the council wants to specify some lag time and say the end of the budget year of
2023 ends year 2 and 3 of this agreement, is that correct?
Just 1 second.
Because I'm confused.
The first payment came in 21 or
Right.
22. First came.
Which I count as year 1.
Okay.
That's 1.
It's 22.
Right.
So we have the money from 22. We have the full 112.
Yes.
And then
Which came in around November.
Okay, and then the 23 money, we don't know how much we're gonna get.
No.
Okay, so that would be year
I would
3.
anticipate these 2 numbers being very similar, but I can't say what's going to happen with those others.
Okay.
So December 2023 ends this, if everyone votes on the written motion tonight, that's when this contract ends, and that's when they would have to come back.
Because it says year, not budget year.
Okay, so
unless you want to change it to budget year.
all right, so I just wanted to be clear, sir, my notes, that's all. Thank you.
No, I just had, excuse me, I wanted clarity, because our resolution that's is 23 and 24
Right,
settlement
that's-
funds. So the 24 settlement funds, because I thought we just heard the end of December 23.
I think it's just because you get the money, like, it says the 23 settlement funds, you get them at the end of 22, but they're for 23.
Okay.
I think that's where the distinction is.
And that's why we say that year 2 and 3.
Right.
As we're in year 2 right now.
Right.
I don't think we want to get into every manufacturer and distributor.
Right. Okay, Counselor Franco?
So full clarity, this is going to December of 2024 on the original motion when it says year 2 and 3. So year 3 is till December of 24.
December 23. Because we're doing the December 22 money right now for year 2. So there's 1 more year.
But isn't it December of 22 gets allocated in 23?
Right.
So
But
the
since
November.
we'll likely receive it by the end of 23, it'll be probably not processed till 24, but it'll be received likely in calendar 23.
All right, so if we're getting into the date part, I want to make this very clear. So if we end up getting the additional pharmaceutical, or pharmacy money, and that comes in during the year of 24, that would go to Community Speaks Out as year 3. That's what I want it to be.
And I would suggest you put budget year. of
And that's
24
why
and then
our
budget year 24.
Our resolution says, council authorizes the 2023 and 2024 settlement funds to be awarded. And that's in the second to last paragraph or sentence. So I would like it, so whatever funds come in,
All the way through 24.
all the way through 24.
Council should
And
specify
if it comes in November, December, and it's like in the November, December of '24, those are for 2025 allocations. I understand that. But if we get anything else, that would go to them during 2024. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just wonder if you might want to do budget year, just, it's kind of an easier distinction to me.
Okay.
Because you're not going to get that later money in the budget year of 24, you'll get it if it came in the end of December of '24, that'd be the budget year '25. So if you cut it off budget year '24, July, June 30th, '24, that would be a good cutoff.
All right, then when we get back to the main motion, I would hope we do. Can make the amended motion to go on the budget year till budget years of '23 and '24. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Counselor Parker?
Mr. Manager, thank you, Mayor. We did not receive our money until the end of, it sounds like November or December.
Mid-November, yeah.
Mid-November. So if year 2 is coming, it's not coming until November of 2023. Year 3 would only come in November of 2024.
Year
correct?
3 is going to be end of '23. We already had that earlier, 22,000, that was year 1 of a year before. Year 2 is what we have in the bank right now.
Year 2 is 112?
Yes.
And 907.
Mm.
So that came in
We've already received it mid-November.
mid-November?
Mhm.
Okay.
But
Just to
there's
be,
no promise every other payment from other people. My guess is likely they'll be in that same time frame, but I can't guarantee it.
okay, so the November of
Especially if
20,
you have a partial year in year 1,
November of 23 would be year 3.
Correct.
And any payments after that would be,
The way it's written.
the way it's written, would still go to them in '24.
Well,
Cor- if it
what's
says years
received by
20
the end of '23.
Received at end of '23.
Right. So this November of this current year, whatever we get, that will still go to them. As it's written, though, let's say some weird payment came, they're late. I think you would still count it those this year, because it's for this year.
If the payment comes in late,
I think you just count it as where it was intended, though, even if it was late. So let's say it comes in January, but it was for '23, it just came in late, you'd still do it.
Well, this year, it doesn't matter regardless, because we allocated both years.
yes. No, that's what I was thinking, is that we're already allocating both years for '23 and
Right.
'24.
So the 112 we have now, and then whatever we receive over the next 9-10 months.
So we can leave it as the end of December, as the calendar year, because that's when the money technically comes in.
Yeah, it just doesn't give you wiggle room if something weird happened, but yes, it's likely that'll be the time frame.
So just to clarify, this is for this year, 2023 to December, for 1 year. The next year will be December 2024, which would make life easier and not doing it by budget, because if it comes in after July 1st, say something funky happens, we will miss that cutoff date. Because the next council will understand that it's for that year.
And the good thing about the money coming in later this year is it'll come in while this council's still here. And so once it's arrived, or once I get that notice in October, I can let the council know what the amounts are.
Yeah, that's it.
Good?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
How many times are we speaking on this subject?
Twice.
Okay.
You spoke once only.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Information.
What's your point of information?
So that's why I was asking, because these dates just, I was unsure. Like, you were just, people were saying, oh, we're in support of this.
What's your point of information?
This motion. So I guess my point of information to John Burt, the final thing is December 2023,
Yeah,
as
the-
written here.
yeah.
So obviously, if it's allocated for
No, it won't
2023.
be paid out to '24, but yes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It won't be paid out till likely '24, but
Right,
yes.
but you could have things that, sometimes it's meant for 2023. So all payments through December of 2023, even if they come in 2024, if they were allocated for 2023, fit under this.
Let me get you something.
Okay.
'Cause I think
so hold
that's-
on. Just the way it's written right now.
I just want for them to be safe that
Okay.
this is written correctly. I'm
So
just
let me.
a little concerned.
The way it's written right now, every dollar we get by the end of this year, so all the money we received last year, plus all the money we will receive this year. I anticipate a clarification will be made if this first vote fails. So we don't really need to discuss this more, because a clarification will be made to clarify exactly what is meant by year 2, year 3. But as it's written right now, it's all the money we received last year and all the money we will be receiving this year, December 31st. Okay, so,
I know it's complicated.
Yes.
And each payment we get, it never says, it just says year 1 or year
Right.
2 or year 3.
okay. So, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Just to be clear, this is just for all the money we received last year, which is $112,907.
Just a point of clarification, we
Sure.
had an amended motion, it's going to fail, but just for clarity.
It's 112.
Oh, that's, okay, thank you.
Yeah, 112,907. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
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 Abstentions? Okay, so that fails. 1 in favor, McBride, 7 opposed, 0 abstaining. Is there a clarification?
I would say good language would be funds received in fiscal year 23 or fiscal year 24.
Okay,
I'd like to make an amended motion
sure.
to add fiscal years 23 and 24.
Second,
Okay.
Parker had already,
It
I had
was,
to,
She's amending her motion.
I'm amending my,
it's just the same motion,
okay.
amending it, okay.
point of information. I just want to understand, so what John's saying is to add that fiscal, and that's what we're adding.
Yes.
That makes sense, 'cause it-
I would changing 2023 and 2024, switch that out.
Right, for fiscal year 23 and 24.
because as written is not clear. So,
Right,
all
that's
just
what the
wanted-
clarification's for.
Wanted to be clear.
Okay. So I got the amended motion, Counselor Franco's motion, Counselor Parker's second, for fiscal years 23 and 24. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 8 in favor. All right,
Can we take a moment while the room,
sure. We'll recess for 10 minutes. 58. On to alteration of scenic road, 853 River Road, page 24.
I'll read it for you.
Thank you.
Resolution to approve alterations of a scenic road, 853 River Road, whereas Article 5 of the Groton Code of Ordinances designation of scenic roads prohibits a scenic road from being altered or improved, including but not limited to widening of the right-of-way or of the travel portion of the highway, paving, changes of grade, straightening, removal of stone walls, and removal of mature trees, except for good cause determined by the council after a public hearing, and whereas Attorney William Sweeney, representing George and Mary Davis, the owners of 853 River Road, requested the town council hold a public hearing to solicit public input regarding the alteration of River Road right-of-way in order to construct a driveway associated with a new single-family residence, and whereas the town council held public hearings regarding the alteration of River Road on February 7, 2023, and February 28, 2023, and whereas the proposed work does not encroach on or change the width, paving, or grade of River Road, the proposed driveway apron will not change the character or adversely impact the neighborhood, and the proposed alterations are necessary to provide safe sight lines from the driveway. Now therefore be it resolved, the town council approves the alterations of the scenic road at 853 River Road as presented on February 28, 2023. I so move.
Second, Franco.
Okay, I have a motion by Counselor Parker, second by Counselor Franco. All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously, 8 in favor. Counselor Jones?
Thank you. Resolution to set a public hearing for alteration of scenic road 1206 River Road, whereas Article 5 of the Groton Code of Ordinance designation of scenic roads prohibits a scenic road from being altered or improved, including but not limited to widening of the right-of-way or of the travel portion of the highway, paving, changes of grade, straightening, removal of stone walls, and removal of mature trees, except for good cause determined by the council after a public hearing. Whereas Tom Politonio, owner of 1206 River Road, has requested the town council hold a public hearing to solicit public input regarding the alteration of River Road right-of-way in order to construct a paved drive-upon for Lot 2, and now therefore be it resolved that the town council will hold a public hearing regarding the alteration of River Road on April 4th, 2023.
Second.
Moved by Jones, seconded by Parker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously, 8 in favor. On to 517 and 529 Gold Star Highway Properties extension of option agreement.
I can read this one.
Thank you.
Resolution to extend the option to purchase agreement for 18 months, the sale of 517 and 529 Gold Star Highway property, whereas the town of Groton owns excess buildings and properties that are no longer needed for public use, and whereas the town has been marketing the 517 and 529 Gold Star Highway properties for several years, and whereas the town has been working with the selected preferred developer on a proposal for the site, and whereas the Connecticut General Statute, Section 7-163E, requires a public hearing by the legislative body on the sale of real property owned by a municipality that has a value exceeding $10,000, and whereas the town council held a public hearing on January 5th, 2021, and held a second public hearing for the sale of 517 and 529 Gold Star Highway properties on March 2nd, 2021, and whereas the sale of 517 and 528 Gold Star Highway properties was referred to the Planning and Zoning Commission per Connecticut Statute 8-24, and the commission found that the sale of the property is consistent with the plan of conservation and development, and whereas the option to purchase for the eventual purchase of the property has been signed between the town of Groton and PJ&A LLC on March 5th, 2021, and whereas the RTM approved the sale pursuant to the Section 9.6 on the town of Groton Charter that requires the sale of all properties with a value of excess of $10,000 be recommended to the RTM for approval, and now therefore be resolved that the town council hereby authorizes the town manager to sign an 18-month extension to the option to purchase agreement with PJ&A LLC and authorizes the town manager to sign all documents required for the closing of the property. I so move.
Second.
Bordelon?
All right, so I have a motion by Franco, second by Bordelon. Any discussion? Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. I do think that Mr. Olson does bring up some great points in the email. John, you had sent an email in regards to that as well, right?
Yes, and I forwarded something from the attorney for the,
Do you want to read that? Can you read that on the record?
what the attorney sent.
Yeah.
Let me see how long it is.
Or just the gist of it?
That at this late stage, that they're not in favor of making the change. And keep in mind, they've been investing money and time into a certain layout, and, you know, you're pretty much reopening the agreement to all around if you make the change.
And that's the attorney's opinion?
That was from that attorney. I haven't run it by our attorney. That just came in today.
By what attorney, I'm sorry?
That's just by their attorney.
Oh, their
But
attorney.
I
Oh, so
agree
that's
with
our
him on it,
attorney.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, I do think that, you know, Mr. Olson brings up great points in regards to, you know, we keep saying that we're looking for affordable housing. We spoke today about addiction, homelessness. I mean, all of this is tied in, and if we're going to be, you know, a community that supports, you know, folks that are struggling in many forms, we need affordable housing. When they get out of, you know, homes or out of prison or out of, you know, different, you know, aspects, or, you know, maybe a divorce or fall on hardship. It was interesting, I was looking up a price today, and a friend was looking to buy a house for investments and stuff to rent, and there was a duplex in Pequannock Bridge, a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and the rent was $1,700 for 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So there is a need for some form of affordable housing. What would we have to do if we wanted to amend this?
You could just make an amendment.
Just make an amendment. Let me think about it. I do think that there definitely is a need, and this is an opportunity to open it up. My understanding is the attorney, when he was here, didn't say he was completely against it and the deal would be off necessarily. I do think that we should consider that. It would be a great location. It's on the bus line, which is also important. And I think it'd be a good opportunity. You know, we look at other properties that recently have fallen through, and then we're back to the drawing board again. So I don't see a problem with asking the language. It may not go through after our discussion, but at this point, why wouldn't we consider it? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
So are you making an amendment?
Debating, discussion,
Okay.
I'll make an amendment then.
All right.
I'd like to amend the language as stated for Mr. Olson to basically consider adding the writing in there to look, I'm sorry, Counselor Parker?
You have to read it into the record.
I mean, it was already, I don't have to read the whole thing, do I, John?
Counselor Bordelon, what's your amendment?
Basically, what was emailed and handed out. Basically adding the lines of affordable housing. That's the only thing that's added in.
Do you have it?
Here.
Thank you. I got it. Okay. So the amendment would be,
To the 6th whereas, adding a new 9th whereas, and then changing the result.
so that a new paragraph 3D8 be added to the agreement stating that at least 10% of the approved number of units have rental pricing consistent with goals and strategies of the 2022 Town of Groton Affordable Housing Plan as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second for discussion.
All right. I got a motion by Counselor Bordelon, second by Counselor McBride.
can I speak to my motion?
Sure.
I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's something that we could do. We're extending the time. Times are changing as this property sits. We need to evolve with the time. I mean, it is an asset to the town, and we gain the property through a hardship of foreclosure. So someone lost a property, and what a better way than to put it back on the tax rolls where we're helping people that may need affordable housing. And even though people are stating that our percent of affordable housing is quite higher than other communities, our quality of affordable housing in the town of Groton is not up to code or standard, in my opinion. As we've been having mold concerns, lots of other deplorable conditions in lower income housing and affordable housing. As a whole, as a town, we keep stating that even our single-family homes are old. Our structures are old. They're outdated. A lot of our housing stock is outdated. So isn't our affordable housing and senior housing. This is a chance to start off with the proposed thing that we have written from our, planning and our economic development, that we need to strive for affordable housing. This is a way to get the ball rolling, and we could, add this in, and I think it would send a message to Branford Manor and the community people out there that are looking for other options and places to move. Thank you.
I did pull up that email if you want me to read that at some point.
Sure. Is it too long?
No, it's not that long.
Okay.
Other than my voice might,
You want me to
go slow. As much as I believe, this is from William Sweeney, Bill Sweeney, the attorney for the person that we're looking to extend for. As much as I believe affordable housing is a very important issue for our region, I don't think this is a good idea. First, Groton has done far more than its fair share of affordable housing for New London County. It's well above the state targeted threshold. I would agree with some of the comments that were made last week that there is a need to renovate and improve existing affordable housing in the community. But I really believe that market rate housing opportunities is what the town needs to be focusing on right now. Second, while we've already committed to taking a look at the affordable housing issue and considering it as an element of the project, I wouldn't want a mandate to provide 10% to become a barrier or obstacle to attract a developer to the project. In my experience, there are some developers who just simply will not do that type of project. It'd be a shame to discourage any type of investment in the community. As I said last week, to the extent that a developer partner was open to including some affordable housing, we would certainly not dissuade them from doing so. And we certainly take it under advisement as a possibility going forward. And then he just reminds us that they need to vote one way or another for the extension because they lapse next week.
Thank you, Councilor Parker.
The added language, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The added language, Mr. Manager, would that have to go back because we did not sign that on the option agreement, which is attached to our packets this evening? Because the option to purchase agreement, does that change the whole thing? Because we're adding a stipulation that wasn't approved by either the town council or to the RTM?
That doesn't have to go through the RTM.
No, but we originally went through the RTM for them to go ahead and
Right.
sell the land.
I mean, if, let's say the council did it, well, then you'd have to say, you're basically you're opening it up. And then, so let's say you did this, you are extending it, but with a change, it would be up to them then to decide if they want to accept that change. And I would just bear in mind that either property, theirs or ours, are kind of limited without the others. So it's not like we're going to really go out to bid, so.
So I'm in favor of the original resolution and not the other one because this does open us back up and it's not what we signed on or agreed to when we did the option agreement. So thank you.
Councilor McBride?
Thank you. I appreciate Tom Olson bringing this information forward to us tonight. I appreciate Councilor Bordelon for their comments because I do think it's a worthy thing to discuss and review. However, I think it is, as Town Manager Burt said, it's probably late to the game and it's going to cause a delay I'm not in favor of it. And the reason being is if you look at our grand list growth for the past 6 years, back in 2016, our grand list was 3.8 million. This past year in 2022, prior to the revaluation, it was 3.74. So we haven't had any grand list growth in 6 years. And as a result of that, that increase in government spending is impacting the taxes for the property owner. So I don't think we need any more delays. I think that's where we need to focus is to have some reasonable growth to try to lower the taxes. Thank you.
Counselor Westervelt?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that changes at this point would basically fundamentally change the scope of the RFP as written. This is what they bid to. I understand time has passed, and it's passed for a lot of different things, but I just think that if we go and try to change stipulations on the scope of work that this contractor has been working towards, we're just going to make it difficult for us to continue to build Groton. We want to be someone who's acceptable to change, acceptable to building. We want to see new projects. And if we throw changes in at the last minute that the contractor's not able to or not willing to do because he's put all the planning into his original plan, I just think we're hurting ourselves if we do that. I'll be supporting the original motion, not the amended motion.
Counselor Bordelon?
I can respect the other counselors' sentiments, what they stated. I do think, though, that this is why Groton, in my opinion, is behind the ball on a lot of things, in the sense that we should be having our economic development based on that report we had. All further negotiations and development should state the affordability aspect very clearly in the RFP and any agreements moving forward. So as we look at other properties like Thyre Mahan and other ones, we should be acting in that manner moving forward. With that, I still would ask maybe that I change to another motion where we don't put the 10% as it stated in the attorney's opinion, and he said that night that they would consider acting and considering an affordable. So maybe we use the words like, if possible, or however, consider affordable housing without a percent, and just put it as a recommendation. So that's my question to the town manager. Where it's not an order, it's a recommendation.
I don't see the harm in a recommendation.
Right. No percent, no nothing, just simply that we look to seek, as we can even just say, per our housing, what was it, 2016, what was that plan from? What year?
22,
22, yeah. Groton seeks to, have more affordable housing, and we would hope that you would consider it. How about that? Can I get a second on that? That's a motion.
I'll second. McBride will second.
Could you, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
could that be repeated?
Sure.
Okay, so just to be clear, though, the other motion must be taken off the floor first.
Sure, I'll remove it.
Okay. And McBride must remove his second.
Yes, I'll remove it.
So this is going to be changed to...
John, I'd look for your help for wording on that, just to be safe.
It's just instead of...
Yeah.
Whatever.
No percents.
Okay, you want to take the percent out?
Right, so there's basically, we're not telling them they have to. We're basically just putting a nice statement in there that says that we are looking to, if they could consider.
So basically, another resolve that the town council further recommends
Yep.
consideration of adding 10% or some level, or not even a percent.
No
sorry,
percent, just some
affordable housing
consideration
to-
of affordable
right,
housing,
right.
period, done.
Per the plan.
Per the plan, yeah. So it's not changing the plan, it's not holding them to the plan, it's basically asking, and it's in there. Because what if this, I'm not saying it's going to, but what if this falls through with this developer? Then at least we have it in there as a consideration, and we.
It would have to be a different... This is our agreement with this developer.
Correct, but when we look back at other agreements, we consider future agreements, and at least we're moving in that direction, that's all.
And this won't, doing what Tom also recommends would adjust the original agreement.
Yeah.
This new suggestion would not adjust it.
It's just a nice gesture, just a consideration.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor Franco?
Thank you. I'm going to go with the original motion that's on the floor. I think changing anything at this stage of the game is simply bad business. I think you're basically telling any kind of developer that if you come here and if by any chance you may need an extension, you might be careful to go in front of the council because who knows what they might change? Who knows what they might change on your, in your contracts or what they might tell you to do? Fundamentally, in business, asking for an extension and things is typical. It happens all the time. It doesn't change your agreement. It's just giving you an extension to try and execute your agreement. And I personally don't want to touch the agreement if back in that time period when we came up with this, if the RFP process and when we negotiated everything and we went through the whole contract, if we wanted it then, it should have been brought into it then. And I can remember things at that time, there were discussions on these items and it wasn't put in there. So I'm comfortable giving the extension, leaving the contract as is. And of course, in the future, with other developments, if you would like to have it in there, we will vote and decide to put it into an RFP process where somebody comes in knowing what's expected, not changing it or even making different recommendations halfway through the game or even towards the end of the game. So I'm in favor of the original motion. Thank you.
Point of information.
What's your point of information?
Most times we can't change the RFP. It's kind of given to us. Our process doesn't allow us. Is that correct, John Burt? Manager Burt?
Well,
Yeah.
the old process, we had pitched a new process that would require
Right.
further input, and then you're working on, took that and looking at a further process.
But when this was written-
I would anticipate one way or another that will become part of the process
Right.
moving forward.
But when this was written, it wasn't allowed, so.
Correct.
Counselor Kassir, you have the floor. Counselor Kassir.
Did you call on me, Mr. Mayor? It's really hard to hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will also be supporting the original motion tonight. I wanted to apologize for my voice, but I wanted to quickly read the original RFP development objectives into the record. They are implementation of a quality development, including use, design, and function that will be an asset to the town, completion of the project in a timely, planned, and well-executed manner, development which is complementary in design to the existing and surrounding neighborhood, management of traffic circulation, retention of significant trees and implementation of new landscape plan, minimization of lighting impacts to adjacent properties, and recognition of the site's location within the watershed of a public drinking water supply. That was what the original RFP was. I am not in favor of making any changes at this point. And I think Mr. Sweeney has already indicated to us in an email, so on public record, that he acknowledges our desire for more affordable housing. And I am just not in favor of adding any extra verbiage onto that at this point. Thank you.
Counselor McBride.
Town Manager Burt, in your professional opinion, would adding this language, do you believe it would impact their decision to move forward with this project in any way?
I don't believe so, but I can understand the worry about setting, with the messaging, but I don't believe they'd back out for that language.
Thank you. I guess my concern is, or my question more is, or comment, we have a citizen that brought information to us that is following what the Affordable Housing Plan has changed and evolved from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So they've done their work, they've done their due diligence, they've made changes that is making the town evolve, and they brought this information to us to consider for making a change. And I don't see anything wrong with making that slight change just to show that we're listening to our residents, we're listening to the Planning and Zoning Commission and incorporating what they approved in the 2022 Town of Groton Affordable Housing Plan. I think that's our job, is to follow the plan that the town has set forth and move forward with. So I do agree that 10% would be, could have some ramifications. That's why I'm not supporting it, but I find it hard to believe that why we couldn't include this and follow the path that Planning and Zoning and others have put forth stating what our intentions are for the town. Thank you.
Counselor Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Burt, do you know when the original RFP was issued?
Give me give me 1 second, I can tell you. Yes, exactly.
I noticed on this agreement, this is 2021, so it probably.
I know it was around there, yeah.
So it's
2021.
probably.
If I may, I have it. It's October 17th, 2016.
2016?
Yes.
So, well,
Hold up for a
okay.
long time.
So I think when our planning department would put together an RFP for a property, they do it in the best faith and the thinking of the town at that time, what is the interest of the town and where the town should be moving. And they submit that, send it out to the world, and developers react to it and bid on it. If this is 2016, this is before anything that really happened. One of the reasons that this extension is being asked for is because of the effects of COVID that got in there, and probably this wouldn't be in front of us if that hadn't happened. So this has been around for a long time, and the developer also bids on the RFP that's presented to them in the best sense. They go through the whole thing. And so my feeling is here, similar to Councilor Franco, is that we can't go around changing agreements at the last minute. It sends a terrible message to the developers that approaching our town who are responding in good faith to the RFPs that we put out. In the future, I think it's fine putting, low-income housing or approved housing or affordable housing or however the town has decided to go into our RFPs. But at the moment, everybody up to this point has been acting in good faith in the documents that they were sent and given and bid on. So I will be just supporting the original motion. One is that we're getting somewhat of a reputation to the developer community, and we want to kind of show that we stand behind the RFPs and the developments that we issue to the world, and we want them to have the same. We want a good back and forth relationship with developers and make this an exciting and economical place and profitable place for them to come and do their projects. So having any changes into this, I think, opens a can of worms, even if it's a minor change. Even at the meeting, if I remember from Mr. Sweeney, acknowledge when this question was asked to him that they would look at it or take consideration of it. So it's on the plate. They know it. He's responded to it. But I think at this time, at the last minute, throwing something in on them that was not part of the original RFP or not part of the original development is just sends a terrible message to people we are trying to do business with. That they need to hold up their end, and we need to hold up our end, and it needs to be consistent. So I will be voting on the original motion that was put on the floor.
Thank you. You spoke twice. I'll speak briefly. I actually quite like Tom Olson's amendment. I think that's the type of things that we have to do. However, ideally, we would have come to that conclusion last week. I would have 100% supported that last week. Doing it this week is when they're not sitting here at the table to sort of agree to it. You're sort of running the risk that we change the agreement and then they walk away. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to support that amendment this week. However, this new amendment to me is non-binding. I don't think it actually accomplishes getting affordable housing in Groton, so it's more symbolic, so it's not as impactful to me. But I will say that we have to look going forward about doing things like this when the developer is sitting there in front of us. Because when we try to do things at this late stage, it falls down because it's just not done properly. What I will say is, I can assure you, they're watching tonight, and we can say we want there to be affordable housing in this development. We said that last week, and that's about as strong as voting for this amendment, because it's non-binding, it's just verbal. So I will support the original motion, but I do think we need to get things like this into our agreements going forward. So
Point of information.
What's your point of information?
To the town manager, again, you stated that this simple wording is not changing any obligation to the developer whatsoever. Is that correct?
That's correct. Correct.
Right, so it's doing nothing. So all the,
That's correct.
you know,
It's
bad
non-binding.
business with the town and all that verbiage
This is not a
wouldn't be-
point of
Right,
clarification.
Thank you.
This
Just
is
want to
not.
make sure.
This
It
is
wouldn't-
not. Do not use the point of information as just another way to get another time of speaking, please and thank you.
That's your opinion. and
Yes,
that was
it is
not-
my opinion as
That's
the
fine.
chair that you're using the point of information to get another turn of speaking and stating your opinion. I
Thank
just
you for
ask
your-
that you
thank you for your
don't-
comments.
I just ask that you don't do that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there any other discussion?
Just treat everybody the same.
I ask everybody to not use the point of information to get another turn at speaking, at stating your opinion from everyone. Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. We are voting on the Counselor Bordelon's amendment to add a recommendation for affordable housing. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, so it fails. 2 in favor, 6 opposed. 2 in favor, Bordelon, McBride. 6 opposed, 0 abstaining. On to the main motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously. 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining.
I'll read this one.
Okay, it's Colonel Ledger School Property Extension of Option Agreement. Thank you.
Resolution to extend the option to purchase agreement for 6 months for the sale of the former Colonel Ledger School property, whereas the town of Groton owns excess buildings and properties that are no longer needed for public use, and whereas the town has been marketing the former Colonel Ledger School property located at 120 West Street in the city of Groton for several years, and whereas the town has been working with the selected preferred developer on a proposal for the site, and whereas the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 7-163E, requires a public hearing by the legislative body on the sale of the real property owned by the municipality that has a value exceeding $10,000, whereas the town council has held a public hearing for the sale of the former Colonel Ledger School on February 2nd, 2021, and whereas the sale of the former Colonel Ledger School was referred to the Planning and Zoning Commission per Connecticut Statute 8-24, and the commission found that the sale of the property is consistent with the plan of conservation and development, and whereas an option to purchase for the eventual purchase of the property has been signed between the town of Groton and Bell Site Development LLC on March 15, 2021, whereas the RTM approved the sale pursuant to Section 9.6 on the Town of Groton Charter that requires the sale of all properties with a value excess of $10,000 be recommended to the RTM for approval, and therefore be it resolved that the town council hereby authorizes the town manager to sign a 6-month extension on the option to purchase agreement for 120 West Street, former Colonel Ledger School property with Bell Site Development LLC, and authorize the town manager to sign all documents required to the closing of the property. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Franco, seconded by Westervelt. Counselor Bordelon?
Yeah, I just, question for the town manager. It would be nice as a counselor up here to have more updates on these properties. We have economic development. I know Leanne Obrey used to always say she wanted them to come and there wasn't enough communication. So I too,
And they did.
let me finish my statement. I too feel that we do not get enough communication, only when it's like a week before, 2 weeks backed up, extensions. It'd be nice if these updates were a little bit more fluent. Since we're required to vote on these, it would be nice to know what is going on and having updates on each of these. It should be a monthly at minimum, especially considering a lot of these properties have been in process. Thayer Mahan, this one we just voted on, 2016. I mean, and it was stated by Councilor McBride, look, we haven't made anything increased. We can use COVID as a process in this, but to what end? We do need to start closing these properties, and we need updates. We need stronger RFP processes and better involvement from the council. So that's my concern, so.
No, I certainly understand that. Now, we only get so, now, for one thing, the Economic Development puts out that monthly report that touches on these, so be sure you're reading those. And then just a reminder that purchase and sales agreement didn't actually get signed until '21. So even though the RFP was out earlier, we didn't have a developer for a long, locked in for a long time.
And it is unfortunate because, through the research on these properties and stuff, and I was preparing for tonight, it just, to what end? I mean, we do need to provide extensions, and this property in particular, I think this developer has done a wonderful job. But the point is how long? I mean, when we start looking at this process, as we talk about more wording that's needed, like, affordability, we also need closability as a clause. And we need to make sure that I look at other towns, they're not closing in 4 years and things. I don't know where our steps. So if our RFPs are written in a better fashion, we could probably execute, and it would make it come back to the counselor much faster than it is. And those little updates are not enough. You can't ask questions on those updates. And it should be here for the community to hear, not an email.
Well,
So,
we had the developers here last week with their attorney to answer questions.
yeah, that was the first time in months, almost months.
And then I would also recommend reading my reports also.
But as you stated, those will not be posted online, so community needs to hear what is going on with the properties. We represent the
Point
community.
of order.
And it needs to be.
Point of
we
order.
Would like it in public.
What's your point of order?
The motion on the floor is regarding an extension of an option agreement for Colonel Ledger School, not the council's processes on how we hear other information on properties.
All right, that is correct. Please just keep
Sure.
your,
So,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Please keep your comments relevant to the motion on the
Sure.
floor.
So with the extension agreement, I'm asking that these come before us in a more timely manner. They were here last week, but it was months and months and months. And so the process in which we're extending extensions, we should be getting these a little bit earlier. Thank you.
Council Franco.
So just to let, my own personal opinion is Colonel Ledger School property needs a slight extension of 6 months because they're working through a process over at the city, which has 2 municipalities with it here in Groton, and it's taking longer than they perceived it might have, and they're just asking for a slight extension. I think that is not anything unusual in a developmental world when you're trying to get approvals, and so I am in favor of this, and I wish them the best of luck with their approval process, and I hope this one property can come to fruition sooner rather than later. And I would also like to know, I heard somebody say the contracts should be written better, and I would like to also remind the council that the council approves these contracts, and we all have a chance and an opportunity to read them and ask our questions and vote on them and make any kind of type of changes we want in the contract during negotiations with the developers. And it is a consensus of a council vote on how we approve the contracts. So, and in the contract, there was an option to have extensions. And thank you very much.
Council Bordelon.
Thank you. My questions are not that I'm not in support of this project, just to be clear. I think this gentleman deserves his extension. But the option agreement, you can ask for things, but if you don't have the votes or the support up here, then it doesn't move. And these are pre-written, and we get 2 turns to speak on the option agreement. So that goes really quick with 3 minutes. So in fact, no, I don't feel we get enough time to discuss with 2 turns. Thank you.
Just to be clear, this was passed in the last council.
Still was timed. 2 turns.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 8 in favor. Thank you.
Resolution approving the tentative agreement reached between the town and local 3539, Council Number 4, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Groton Employee Administrative and Technical Specialist for the term July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025. Whereas the Town of Groton and Local 3539 of Council Number 4, AFSCME, AFL-CIO reached a tentative agreement on a successor collective bargaining agreement for the period July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. And whereas the bargaining unit membership voted to approve the agreement, and whereas approval is recommended by the town's negotiators, therefore be it resolved that the Town of Groton hereby approves the agreement and the expenditure of funds necessary to implement the agreement, inclusive of Article 1 pension agreement between the town and Local 3539 of Council Number 4, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, on a successor collective bargaining agreement for the period July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jones, seconded by Westervelt. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 8 in favor.
Motion to adjourn?
I got a motion to adjourn
Second.
by Counselor Bordelon, seconded by Jones. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned unanimously at 9:40.